Direito contribuir pedagogy global impact.
Hello from Vermont in the United States. Welcome to Global Impact.
Hola, mi nombre es Sheila Escobedo. Me encuentro en la ciudad de Guatemala. Bienvenidos a la conferencia de Impacto Global.
مرحبا من اسطنبول واهلا وسهلا بجلوبال امباكت.
مرحبا، معكم سوسن من شيكاغو فلسطين. أهلا وسهلا بجلوبال امباكت.
Saludos desde Santiago, Chile, y bienvenido o bienvenida a Global Impact.
Hello from White Plains, New York in the United States. Welcome to Global Impact.
Pozdrowienia z Glasgow w Szkocji. Witaj w Global Impact.
Hello from Charlotte, North Carolina in the United States. Welcome to Global Impact.
Hello et bonjour from Alberta, Canada. Welcome to Global Impact.
Hello from Montreal and welcome to Global Impact.
Hello from Houston, Texas in the United States. Welcome to Global Impact.
Hello from Lynchburg, Virginia in the United States. Welcome to Global Impact.
Tina kota katoa, no mai halimai, ki te Global Impact. He mihi nui, kia koto mai I turanga nui a kiwa, Aotearoa.
Hola, bienvenidos al Global Impact Conference en modalidad virtual. Mi nombre es Pedro Sánchez, soy estudiante del Colegio de Creolía Americano en el grado 10. Yo y mi compañero aquí, Juan Pablo, somos líderes del curso de sostenibilidad en high school.
¿Qué tal? Mucho gusto, mi nombre es Juan Pablo, yo soy de grado 12 y junto aquí con mi compañero hemos estado liderando el curso para poder mejorar la relación que tiene nuestra comunidad escolar con el medio ambiente.
Hello and welcome to the Global Impact Virtual Conference. I'm Jen from the United States, it's late, from the state of Vermont. I'm a member of the Global Impact Organizing Team and I'm the host for this session. This year, our theme is elevating the human story, putting human stories back at the heart of education. Through amplifying global educator voices, we will explore storytelling as a pedagogy, leadership, and ethical technology use, connecting classrooms worldwide and centering dignity, equity, and lived experience in learning. We want to begin with a message of peace in these turbulent times. At Global Impact, we believe that education is one of the most powerful forces for peace in the world. Across borders, languages, and cultures, we come together, not to agree on everything, but to listen, to learn, and to build something better together. In time where division is easy, we choose connection. In a world that often speaks loudly, we choose to understand deeply. Each voice in this conference represents not just a country, but a commitment to compassion, curiosity, and shared humanity. Peace is not something we wait for. It is something we practice through dialogue, through collaboration, and through the work we do with our students every day. This is our global impact. I'm honored to be a part of the Global Impact community. Today alone, we have 34 presenters, 17 organizers working behind the scenes, all representing 22 countries across 6 continents. And that doesn't include all of you, the incredible participants taking part in today's sessions. When people from this many backgrounds and experiences come together, powerful things happen. Today isn't just about sharing ideas, it's about sparking connections, challenging perspectives, and driving meaningful change forward. This session is in English. If you need to turn on the captions, please do so by following the directions using the link in the chat. We have an incredible lineup of speakers, and this session's presenter is one of them. Kwame Sarfo-Mensah is the founder of Identity Talk Consulting, LLC, a global educational consulting firm that specializes in developing K-12 teachers into identity-affirming educators, rooted in the core values of equity, empowerment, and authenticity. Identity Talk Consulting provides a range of professional learning experiences, including keynote speaking, virtual and in-person trainings, leadership consulting, and e-courses, all to help educators sharpen their cultural responsiveness and anti-bias, anti-racist practices. Over the course of his 17-year education career, Mr. Sarfo-Mensah has worked as a classroom teacher, author, consultant, and speaker across the United States, Ethiopia, Sierra Leone, and Zambia. Internationally, he has delivered high-impact workshops and keynotes for organizations such as the Association for International Educators and Leaders of Color, International Schools Services, the Education Collaborative for International Schools, Ghana ASCD, Diverse Educators, and Siena. Currently, Mr. Sarfo-Mensah serves as the Senior Leadership Advisor at Lusaka Oak Tree School here in Lusaka. His latest book, Learning to Relearn, Supporting Identity in a Culturally Affirming Classroom, recently received the 2025, is it IPPY? Is that how you say it? I wanted to say IPPY, but the IPPY Gold Medal for Best Education Commentary Book and the 2024 Forward Indies Gold Award for Best Education Book, further cementing his status as a thought leader in a culturally responsive education. Kwame, I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jen. And although it's a little past midnight here in Zambia, I'm just excited to be a part of this journey that y'all been on since 7 o'clock in the morning in the States.
Yep.
So, and you all still here. So that's amazing. So I do want to commend the Global Impact team for putting together such an amazing event. And I know there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes with that. So I'm very honored to be here. And for everybody else who is still on with us, welcome. I'm here to share my presentation focused on combating dominant narratives through counterstorytelling. And just to give you an overview of what we're going to be covering today, I want to just talk about the importance of storytelling and how it's important for us to center the stories of our students who are coming from historically marginalized communities, and how we need to elevate their stories that so often get invisibilized within curriculum and within our day-to-day interactions in our schools. And you'll be hearing some different counter story examples, as well as strategies that we can use in our classroom instruction and curriculum design. So without further ado, we're going to go right in because we have a half hour. First things first, we have these terms that you may not be familiar with. There's dominant narratives, and then we have counter narratives. So we're going to just go through each of these so you can get a sense of what they all represent. So when we think about the dominant narrative is the story or the narrative that we have grown up to accept as truth in our classrooms, in the classes that we've taken in the past. And we've never taken the time to consider what other perspectives are out there. So if I'm speaking for myself, growing up in the United States as a first-generation Ghanaian immigrant, I went to schools where I didn't really learn a whole lot about the history of people across the African diaspora. And yeah, I might have heard some stories in February when it's Black History Month, but outside of that, you didn't really get to learn about the heroes and the figures that really shaped the history of people, not just in the United States, but people across different parts of African diaspora, whether it's in the Caribbean, whether it's here on the African continent where I'm currently based, Europe, and other parts of the world. And that was something that really stuck with me, especially when I decided to become an educator almost 2 decades ago. I realized that with the dominant narratives, they only serve people who are in power. And in our world, it is predominantly white, Christian, Anglo-Saxon people who are across the globe, particularly in Europe and other parts. So it was important for me to analyze the stories that I'm sharing with my students, and also get them to see that there are other stories that do exist. So with regards to the dominant narrative, you have other perspectives that are invisibilized or ignored. You also have this idea that whatever is being shared, you just accept as truth. It's the default story that you just believe to be true without further investigation. But now, given the times that we're in, we're at a place where we do need to think more critically about what is being shared through different mediums, what's being shared in our textbooks, as well as other literary sources. So, dominant narratives, they show up in all parts of the globe. And these are just a few common examples of how we may see these dominant narratives. So, just a quick example for those who are in the United States, we believe in this dominant narrative, for example, that the United States is a melting pot where everybody can achieve the American dream and they can succeed through working hard and having that habit. But the reality is, we're ignoring the fact that there is structural racism that exists. We're ignoring the fact that we have indigenous communities who are still fighting to get their lands back. We're still looking at immigration, labor exploitation, especially when you think about what's happened in the States with the presence of ICE and other groups that are causing harm to immigrants, whether you're first, second, third, fourth generation, doesn't matter. If you appear to fit what they think the profile is, then you're going to be subject to harm and harassment and other consequences, which are totally unjust. But these are things that are happening that we are marginalizing because we have people still believing in the dominant narrative. And it's the case in a lot of other parts of the globe, whether you're in South Africa, which is near where I am, where we believe that we're in a post-apartheid era. But in reality, racial and economic inequality still exist. Even within South Africa, there's still social unrest in different parts, still very much segregated, whether you are in Cape Town, whether you're in Pretoria, Johannesburg. So these are just examples just to show us that while there are all these unjust things happening, there are particular narratives that we are constantly seeing in our news feeds and through social media and other mediums where we are to believe that those are the things that are going on, the truth, when that's not the case. So then this is where the counter narratives come in. And the counter narratives are the antithesis of what I just shared about, where we're focusing on humanity. We're focusing on elevating those indigenous paradigms. And we are presenting the truth about what's really going on. We're exposing the violence that has come from the dominant groups that we so often center in our stories, in our textbooks, and other literary sources. We're also making sure that we are providing multiple perspectives. So in the case of our schools, we have different heritage months. So we have, for example, in the United States, there's Asian American Heritage Month. You have Hispanic Heritage Month. We also have other holidays that celebrate different groups that are within our demographic. And it's the case in other parts of the globe as well. So it's important that we're able to share these counter narratives so that people are able to understand that there are other people who do exist in our globe. And they also have important figures who have done incredible things in the world, who have contributed to the advancement of our civilizations across the globe. So the counter narrative helps to counteract whatever stories that we grew up believing to be true. And these are just some examples of where counter stories are taking place. And there's so many other places where we can find them. So whether we're in Japan, whether we're in Haiti, southern region of Asia, and other parts of the globe, you have storytellers who are holding up the traditions of the cultural narratives that are being invisibilized where they are. So now I want to go ahead and give you all an opportunity to share in the chat what counter stories you may have grown up watching or reading. So whether you've seen a film where you had a protagonist that looked like you and you thought to yourself, you know, I see myself in this character. Or you've had a story that you read as a kid or even as an adult where you felt that same way. I want you to go ahead and take about a minute to share that in the chat. Can you name me a book that you read or a film where you saw a protagonist or any character and you thought, this person is like me. This person is someone that I can relate to. So I'll give you all a minute to do that, and I'll check on what we have in the chat. Okay, Hidden Figures. Yes, love that movie. Okay, Pocahontas. Nice. Joey and Friends. That's fine. We could do Joey and Friends. That's fine. Yeah. So these are just some really good examples here. So yes, it could be books, it could be TV shows, films, any characters that you see. All right. Well, listen, if there are any more that do come up, please don't hesitate to put those in the chat. But I just wanted to give people a chance to see where they were able to find some connection to different characters and what they've seen and read. So I wanted to just give a formal grounding definition of counter storytelling. So think about counter storytelling. We're talking about stories that amplify the experiences, the narratives, and the truths of folks who are coming from historically marginalized communities. So that could be in a form of different things, which I'll show in the next couple slides up. Now, when we think about these counter stories, they build confidence and pride in who we are. Being able to hear a story about people who come from our ancestral lands, people who come from where our families are from, and being able to have that alignment, being able to have that ancestral connection to them is such a powerful feeling to have. And it's something that we don't often feel when we're being taught in schools. So with the counter stories, we're allowing for space to hear different voices, to get different expressions, different experiences and perspectives that are often invisibilized from our curriculum, from our policies, from the day-to-day instruction that's delivered to our young people. And we're also learning about empathy. We're learning about the challenges that people from these different communities are facing globally. And we're also challenging the harmful stereotypes and those preconceived notions that we have about folks who come from these historically marginalized communities, whether they're Black and brown, whether they're indigenous, whether they're Asian, whether we are also talking about folks who are coming from the LGBTQIA plus communities and other populations, we're able to bring out those diverse experiences that are just beautiful in their disposition. Now, as we were showing in the question I posed, counter stories aren't just limited to books. Counter stories can be in the form of blogs. You can get them in the form of podcasts, collages, public speeches, keynotes, poetry, comic books, short films, and so many other mediums. So counter stories are very prevalent in our day-to-day world. So these are just a few ways in which we can have our young people engage in counter stories, which are powerful. So now for the next 10 minutes, I want to provide some examples of how you can incorporate counter stories in the classroom. Because of course, as educators, as much as we love theory, we also want to know, how can we apply this cool theory into our classrooms? So I'm going to give you a few ideas on how to do that. And the first one is with the me bag activity. And as you can see here in this visual, this is an example of a me bag. And these are things that I grew up engaging in. So with the me bag, it's a really simple activity. And guess what? It is free, absolutely free. You don't need to pay extra money to buy different items. All you need is a bag. Could be a plastic bag. It could be a book bag. It could be a Trader Joe's bag. Doesn't matter. And you're just going to put 3 or 4 personal artifacts inside that bag that have significant meaning to you and represent who you are. And what you're doing is you are having students come to school with these bags, and they're going to take out each artifact one at a time and share a short story about what that artifact represents to them. So it's supposed to be a form of storytelling that's personal to the student. So for example, in my case, my family grew up in Ghana, West Africa. So you can see the Ghana flag here in the upper right-hand corner. That represents where my family's from. It represents my culture and my heritage. You see some peanut butter that's in the lower right-hand corner. The peanut butter is something that I grew up eating. I was a peanut butter and jelly fan, even to this day. I'm the type that's going to eat peanut butter out the jar. Even when my wife isn't watching me, I might sneak in a few bites so that she doesn't scold me. Doesn't matter if it's Jif, doesn't matter if it's Reese's, doesn't matter if it's Skippy. I eat all peanut butter. I don't discriminate. So that's why you see that there. The microphone represents my love for karaoke. Been karaokeing for over 10 years, and I just love to sing and to show off my falsetto. And then here you have video games. So I grew up as an 80s baby. So growing up at that time, you had to have a Nintendo, you had to have an Atari, you had to have a Super Nintendo. Now going into the early 90s, Sega Genesis, we had all the systems growing up. So these are things that represent my childhood. These are things who represent who I am. And this is something you can do with all of your students. Really simple activity. And it's just amazing to hear their stories and connect with them in a deeper way through them. And then if you are someone that is an English teacher or someone who's in the humanities or any subject, we have text sets. So text sets are basically where you have a core text or a main text, and you're able to pair them with other texts that have similar themes or have different ideas or perspectives that are tied to the core text. So just as an example, you have the book Esperanza Rising. So Esperanza Rising is a very popular book, a classic. And in that book, you're looking at the lives of Mexican migrant workers. So you may find some real life historical excerpts that speak to what they had to endure during that time. You may come across some articles that speak to what's happening in terms of immigration, in terms of narratives around deportation. And there's a lot of news circulating even today as we speak that are all about that. And you're just finding these different sources, whether it's newspapers and other things that are speaking to the main themes of the main text, which in this case, we have Esperanza Rising. But you can do this with any type of textbook, novel, young adult book that you have in your library. So there's the text set expansion. We also have gallery walks where you can put up different posters and also have students walk around to analyze these different things and find out, well, who's being centered in these stories, what perspectives are missing, and what are the intended messages that are being presented in this situation. And then there's book audits. We got to be detectives. We got to make sure that we are taking time to audit all the books that are in our libraries and get a sense of how we're ensuring that different voices, different perspectives, and stories are being centered, particularly those that are being excluded from our curriculum. And also through book audits, you are allowing for your students to develop critical literacy skills that will allow them to seek out different perspectives, that will allow them to analyze and investigate what themes are there and what themes are not. So it's something that we can also teach our students so that when they become adults like us, they'll be able to have the discernment and the ability to differentiate truth from fiction, whether they're listening to a story on the news, whether they're reading a book or a newspaper article. They'll be able to distinguish and come to their own conclusion of what's really happening in our world. And just to start wrapping things up, I want to leave this quote from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who talks so often about the single story. And just as a reminder, stories hold many functions. Stories have the ability to dispossess and malign, as we've mentioned with the dominant narratives. But on the flip side, you have stories that have the power to humanize people. They have the power to repair the broken dignity that people have felt through the traumatic parts of their history and their heritage. So the stories matter so much, as you've come to learn throughout this entire Global Impact Conference. And we have to continue to center the stories that matter most to our students and everybody else. So quick recap. So happy that I'm doing it within time. I was worried about this. Counterstories. They amplify the narratives, the experiences, and the truths of those coming from the most historically marginalized communities, while dominant narratives are the stories and the perspectives that we have come to believe as truth, that privilege other groups while marginalizing others. And then we just talked about the different ways in which we can incorporate those in our classrooms. So I want to thank the Global Impact team for having me. Can't believe it's already been 30 minutes. That time went by so fast. But if you would like to learn more about counterstories and some of the other themes I talked about in this presentation, you can look at Learn to Relearn, which is my latest book, where I talk more about it and other themes. And I just want to thank the team again for having me, and I look forward to watching this final presentation coming right after. Thank you again.
Kwame, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, it was just such a powerful presentation about the importance of the counter narrative and celebrating your own cultural identity and really bringing to light that importance of perspective taking and empathy and telling your own story and not just taking those dominant narratives as like the absolute truth. It's such an important thing that people need to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen.
There's just a great point, Rachel. Can we have a 1-hour ISTE expert webinar on this? I think that's a fabulous idea. Kwame is still on, so if you want to post some questions in the chat, feel free, because I don't know if you're sticking around a little bit, but go for it. So that was really powerful. Thank you again. This year, we wanted to highlight some incredible stories from around the globe of how educators are making a global impact in their classrooms. Our pre-recorded spotlight is the story of Anita Collins and Rachel Joseph from Rwanda, and it will explore the topic of adapted theoretical framework for postgraduate supervision. Enjoy.
An adapted theoretical framework for PG supervision at the University of Rwanda School of Nursing and Midwifery, developed by Anita Collins and Robin Clark. Presentation by Anita Collins and Rachel Joseph. This presentation focuses on a conceptual framework for understanding postgraduate supervision in a complex situation. First postgraduate nursing program in East Africa, where 8 specialty tracks in nursing was launched simultaneously in 2015. This was in keeping with the Rwanda Vision 2020, which focuses on the workforce development that encouraged international and local faculty collaboration in an attempt to include the rich diversity available in the program. The framework was developed to explore faculty experiences in teaching, clinical supervision, and research supervision. The primary goal was to identify what works, what doesn't, and why, with a special emphasis on equity and improvement. Traditional reflection methods like narratives are useful but incomplete. They fail to capture cultural influences, institutional systems, inequality issues. This creates the need for a more comprehensive framework. So we developed a framework by combining 4 theories. 1. Cultural schema from D. Andrade, which speaks about behavior shaped by culture. 2. Capability approach from Amritya Sen, which focuses on opportunities and freedom. 3. The matrix model from Marnetti and Venkatapuram, which organizes analysis by using the matrix to cross-match capability approach and the levels within the cultural meaning system. And finally, the decision-making theory, which explains choices in complex systems. What we wanted to emphasize is that no single theory is enough alone in dealing with a complex situation like this. Cultural schema. People act based on past cultural experiences. When we apply this to education, we find that students and faculty bring different expectations. Besides, there are challenges such as language barrier, where the international faculty were from many different nations, used to Western-based curriculum, and the students in Africa had differences in their learning styles. For example, rote versus critical thinking. Capability approach. Amartya Sen's theory of human capabilities approach and the levels within the cultural meaning system shifts focus from the outcomes to opportunities and freedom. So to put it simply, capabilities is what people can do, functionings are what they actually achieve. Agency is the ability to create change, while endowment is about the resources available. He emphasized the importance of equity and access. CATWO was used as a tool to analyze systems. Here the customers are the students, the actors are the faculty, the transformation is the students' success, the owners are the decision makers, while the environment is the external constraint. This helps us to understand the whole system. So to summarize, the cultural diversity strongly affects teaching and learning. Inequalities impact student success. Faculty play a key role as change agents. The system is constantly evolving as wider collaborations are accommodated and program changes are introduced along the way. To conclude, the framework enables holistic understanding, better supervision practices, improved equity, and that is scalable to other contexts. Now, I welcome Rachel Joseph to add about how this particular framework is scalable to other contexts. Thank you.
With this emerging new knowledge, faculty must be equipped to share it with students so they can provide the right care to families. Although developed within the context of the postgraduate nursing education in Rwanda, this framework is intentionally flexible and transferable. Its emphasis on cultural meaning systems, equity, and capability development makes it applicable to other low and middle income countries, post-conflict settings, and institutions experiencing rapid expansion or international faculty collaboration. With contextual adaptation, the framework can guide postgraduate supervision across disciplines and regions where cultural diversity and systemic inequality influence educational outcomes. So now we have the framework developed in Rwanda, and where do we go from here? What is the future research which can contribute to the furtherance of the nursing discipline across the globe? The future research may use this framework to evaluate supervision models longitudinally, examine student and faculty outcomes across cultural contexts, and inform faculty development initiatives so that they will be equipped to teach the students further. Empirical testing of the framework can further refine its components and contribute to global conversations on culturally appropriate, equitable postgraduate education, because they are the future of future healthcare. The framework also provides a foundation for comparative studies across institutions, regions, continents, and globally. Ultimately, the adapted framework demonstrates that effective postgraduate supervision in complex contexts requires not only academic expertise, but also cultural awareness, equity-focused leadership, and intentional decision-making within evolving systems.
That was a really great example of how global impact can be used with even postgraduate students. I really liked how the focus was on the infusion of different theories that work together rather than just using one. The flexibility of the framework helps those postgraduate nursing students succeed by first understanding their own human stories through cultural meaning, equity, and capability. This approach directly will influence how those nurses treat their patients in those culturally diverse regions. Thanks for joining us for this live session as part of the Global Impact Virtual Conference. From our whole global team, we are so grateful for your participation. Please continue with us at Global Impact by joining the next and our final live session. You can find more information about our live presenters on our website at www.globalimpacteducators.org. Our next presenter is Abir Ramadan Shinawi from the United States. The session begins at the top of the hour. We'd also like to invite you to join us at the 2026 ISTE ASCD conference. Whether you're joining live or virtually, we'll have content for you. We have sessions and a group meetup. Make sure to follow us on social media for more details launching soon. We also have a discount code for you. Use the code in the chat by May 1st when registering for $25 off of virtual registration. Thank you, ISTE and ASCD, for that little gem. Lastly, follow us on social media. We're on most major channels at Global Impact Educators. You can also find it on our website. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you at the top of the hour for our last session.